These cameras are very similar in many ways. They have the same articulated screen, these same ports, these same card slots, the same menu system, they have the same sensor and nearly all the same recording modes. They both feature the same highly responsive autofocus system, and they both have incredible low light capabilities. So breaking that down, the quality of the content that you can create with either of these cameras is pretty much the same. So why is the FX3 more expensive? And which one is right for you? I'm Dylan John, and the best way to answer those questions is by quickly going over the differences. Let's start with the obvious. Because the A7S III was designed for hybrid shooters in mind, so those who take photos and video, it has a typical mirrorless camera body with an electronic viewfinder on top. If you shoot video, the viewfinder can come in handy when you're out and about shooting on a sunny day, but frankly, I've owned the camera for around 3 years, and I can honestly say that I've used the viewfinder maybe 10 times. Usually I have a monitor on top, or I am okay with using the LCD screen. The viewfinder is definitely worth the mention though, because I know some video shooters who really love using the A7S III's viewfinder when shooting outside. If you like to take a lot of photos too, then this is where the A7S III gets a point, because snapping some photos when looking through the viewfinder is so dang nice. Its viewfinder is one of the highest resolution viewfinders on the market. The FX3 was designed for video shooters in mind, so it has that appealing boxy design that you typically see in cinema cameras, but this also means that it lacks the viewfinder. With that gone, Sony spiced up the FX3 with a few extra goodies. So when you press record on the FX3, you have a bunch of tally lights that shine red to help you know for sure that you're actually recording. Your LCD screen will also show a nice big red square around it, but the A7S III also has this feature. So if you're someone who never actually knows if you pressed record or not, then the FX3 gets a point for you here. The FX3 also has extra mounting threads built directly into the camera body, which can really come in handy for mounting different things. The A7S III does not. However, you can just buy a cage for it so you can mount different things on it if you really want. That, of course, increases the size of the setup though. The FX3 also has different buttons specifically labeled for different settings, and that big recording button I just mentioned, which the A7S III does not have. But you can still change the buttons on your A7S III to do whatever function you want, so you can make these the exact same as the FX3. Another difference is the fact that the FX3 has this little thing right here on it, while the A7S III does not. This allows you to quickly use Sony's clear image zoom function. And if you don't know what that is, I have a 24mm prime lens on this camera. It should not zoom, it's a prime lens. But Sony found a way to allow you to zoom in with a resolution that's nearly the same as if not zoomed in. So basically you can zoom prime lenses and not lose much image quality. Now some of you might be hyped on this little feature, but the thing is that you can do this also with the A7S III. You just have to set it up. For example, I have mine set up, so if I press my scroll wheel button in and then rotate the wheel, I can quickly zoom in and out. So just on those last few features, the FX3 gets some points for ease of use maybe, but you could still add a cage to the A7S III, you could set up your buttons the way you want, so I'm not sure those details make the FX3 better. The FX3 also has an internal cooling fan, while the A7S III does not. Does this make a difference? I've had the A7S III going for a few hours and have never had any overheating issues. However, if you are shooting long live streams outside, or maybe weddings where your camera's under the sun and just continuously rolling, then the FX3 may be a better option for you just in case. Once again though, not once have I had my A7S III overheat on me, and I have shot outside with it many times in really hot weather with tropical humidity. The big difference when it comes to the body of the two cameras, other than the lack of the viewfinder on the FX3, is the fact that the FX3 comes with a top handle that has XLR audio inputs, and the A7S III does not. You'd have to buy a cage and a top handle, and if you did that, I am not quite sure you could fit on Sony's XLR adapter after the fact. Some of you might be saying, well then I'll just buy the FX3 top handle and attach it to the A7S III. But what makes the top handle so strong on the FX3 are these little screws that screw directly into the body of the camera. There are no thread mounts for this directly on the A7S III, so putting that much stress on the hot shoe mount is probably not a good call. So if you're someone that wants a top handle and professional audio inputs in as small of a package as possible, then the FX3 gets some points for you here. Something I've noticed from using these cameras daily is that my FX3 batteries seem to die much quicker than the A7S III's, and they use the exact same batteries. Why this is, I am not exactly sure. If you know why, let me know in the comments. I assume it's potentially because I have the fan turned on auto on the FX3, so it could be pulling power from that. And it also could be the fact that the A7S III has the ability to record with the LCD screen off, since it can then switch to the viewfinder. So from my experience, the A7S III gets the upper hand as far as battery life. Another thing that makes these cameras different is that Sony seems to update the FX3 quite a bit more than the A7S III. A while back, the FX3 got the picture profile called S-Cinetone, which is a solid, straight out of camera picture profile adopted from the Sony Venice. And for a while, the A7S III didn't have that. Upon some backlash from A7S III users though, they added that in a firmware update for the camera. But the FX3 still has some other features that were added in firmware updates that the A7S III does not. And I don't foresee it getting them because the A7S III is not part of Sony's cinema line. The first one is that the FX3 has the ability to desqueeze anamorphic footage on your LCD screen. So what this means is that if you are using an anamorphic lens, you can make what you see on your LCD screen go from all stretched vertically like this to this. That way you can get a better idea of framing and stuff and just see what the actual shot will look like once you desqueeze in post. The A7S III does not have this feature, and I don't think it'll be getting it. The FX3 also has an exposure mode called Cine EI, which I'm not going to go into in depth, but basically it locks your ISO into one of the two base ISOs on the camera, which is 800 and 12,800. This ensures that you have the cleanest image possible, and from there, it lets you adjust the Cine EI value on those base ISOs to expose better for brighter shots or darker shots, all while keeping your image noise to a minimum. If you want to see more on this, let me know in the comments, but this is something that the A7S III does not have. Cine EI can be useful, but it is not something that I feel everyone needs to have, and you certainly don't need it to get great looking shots. So don't fret too much if the A7S III was sounding good up until this point. And the last difference is of course the cost. As of right now, the Sony FX3 is $3,698 and the A7S III is $3,198. So basically the A7S III is $500 less. Is this a justified price difference from all the details we've gone over? Initially, when the FX3 came out, the $500 extra was not worth it, in my opinion. Now, I believe it is, but at the end of the day, they are nearly the same camera, and whichever one you choose, it'll likely be impossible to tell as to what camera the video was shot with. So, which one do you think fits your style of shooting best? Let me know in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it.